Hi, everyone. This is Kalia from Marcus Evans. Thank you so much for joining us today on this webinar on Powering Up HR, the Rise of Tech-Savvy HR Leaders. This is brought to you in partnership with Hexaware Technologies. Before we begin, I'd like to cover just a few housekeeping items. As you can see at the bottom of your screen are multiple application widgets. They're resizable and movable, so please move them around to get the most out of your desktop space. Also like to encourage you to submit any questions that you might have by using the Q&A widget, and we'll try to answer as many as possible throughout the broadcast. However, if a full answer is needed or we perhaps run out of time, we'll make sure to send you an email afterwards. I'd also like to draw your attention to the resource list that will contain a copy of today's slide deck, some interesting articles, and please bookmark any links that you might find useful. To answer any common technical issues, I advise to use the help widget, and a reminder to look out for an email in the next 2 hours with links to review today's session. Before I hand over to Madhvi, I just wanted to quickly cover this disclaimer. The views expressed during this webinar belong to our panelists and don't represent their company or employees. At this point, I'm pleased to introduce you to our moderator and our host. We have with us Madhvi Malanini, who is the HR Transformation Leader and Global Head of SAP at Hexaware Technologies. Happy to have you on. Madhvi, I'm going to hand over to you and you can take it from here. I hope you enjoy.
Thank you, Kyle. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, wherever you are. It's a privilege to be moderator for this with this amazing panel on one of the most relevant topic of our times. Powering up HR, the rise of tech-savvy leaders in HR. This has become a very pressing topic with AI shaking up things in personal life, professional life, and also more specifically in HR. I am Madhvi, and I have been at the intersection of HR and technology for over 30 years now. Started off in the old age of PeopleSoft, on-prem products like SAP, etc. Now move on to the SaaS products and consulting with the organizations in the HR tech implementations and rollouts. Personally, now it's the most exciting time for me, looking at how technology is not only powering but shaking up things in HR, all aspects of HR. And we will now get into more insights from our panel now. And before we start the discussion, I would invite the panelists to introduce themselves. Nicole, if you want to go first.
Thank you so much, Madhvi. I'm so happy to be here today. Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Dubois. I am Chief Human Resources Officer for GRAM, which is a child, family, and community serving organization in the United States in New York City. And, I think the perspective that I bring to this conversation is, I know as a Chief Human Resources Officer, when people think HR, they think people first. They think relationship driven in terms of the function. I think that hasn't changed, even in this ever evolving moment that we're in, where the scale, the complexity, what we're asked to do as HR leaders, as people leaders, that is what has changed, right? And, I think, we have a multi-generational workforce. We have a workforce with unprecedented, expectations, and we have to make decisions and draw insights from those decisions much more quickly. That is where AI and technology sort of comes in, right? It is not about being an expert, a data engineer, a scientist, but it is about knowing how to use these tools to support, not replace, and not to make decisions, but to support, thoughtful decisions. And I think in doing that, it frees up our time as HR leaders to do what we do best, which is to spend time with people.
Hannah, you want to introduce and give your opening comments?
Good morning, everyone. Happy to join. My name is Hanan Sheikh. I'm speaking to you from the land down under. That's Australia. So it's now 5 p.m. here. I'm a senior organization transformation consultant and process automation consultant as well. I've been working, like Madhvi, in the field of human resources in the past 30 years across three continents: Africa, Asia, and now in Australia. I specialize very much in workforce transformation and data analysis. And yes, exactly like what Nicole said, it's very important that we all understand you don't have to be a technology engineer to be able to understand AI or to work with AI, but it's going to be a must that we all enable ourselves with skills in that field, because simply the whole direction of the world is going into that. And there's a lot of positivity in using AI, as well as there's risks, which we will also touch on. But that's going to be something that I think the more and more we as human resources partners work on, it's going to help us ourselves and the organization itself. Back to you, Madhvi.
Thank you, Nicole. Yeah, thank you. Like both Nicole and Hannon mentioned, we face a lot of questions as our executives. We make decisions on an everyday basis with not so adequate information, half informations, like who to hire, how much to pay, who can be elevated, a lot of questions that come up. Now we have something called AI that can help analyze zillions of data and provide us with very contextualized and concise information that can help in making decisions. So in this panel, let us see how we can leverage it. Where do we start? What are the best use cases that we can go after to have maximum impact in the organization? What are the downsides of it that we should safeguard ourselves, and how we can help our employees to make best use of it? We will try to get those insights from Nicole and Hannon, who bring their vast experience and perspective into it. Okay. Firstly, Nicole, if I can start with you. You have already mentioned, no, HR is viewed as people-centric, empathy, softer aspects, which you mentioned in the introduction. With the AI becoming embedded into HR systems, what do you think are the additional skills or the new skills that a tech-savvy leader brings need to get equipped themselves with?
Yes, thank you for the question. I would say that central, really important, is to be curious, to stay curious, right? And so, sometimes I think I've recently on LinkedIn put up a post that ChatGPT and Copilot are my new two BFFs, right? Because I know I'm not going to break any of these tools, and I may not have mastered any of these generative AI tools or others, but I'm curious and I'm like, let me try something. Let me, put a few bullets with the right prompts, a few bullets about a role description with the right prompts, and ask the tool to support me in drafting a proper role description. I'm not going to break it. I can try it. So I think curiosity and sort of the appetite for being fearful or anxious about these tools, but trying it anyway, is one of the things that's critically important. I think beyond that, there are, three things that I think, sort of are in follow up to my response. Three things that would be critically important. One is having a systems thinking, understanding how technology can connect talent, performance, engagement, and how that all connects to business outcomes, right? So I know if my team, is tooled with, sort of technology supports, AI options to make their work more efficient, we're going to hire faster. Hopefully, we will, affect, sort of retention outcomes, certainly engagement outcomes for our staff. And when in our business, in child, family, and community services, when we have a stabilized workforce, that means stability for the children, the families, and the communities that we serve. So, systems thinking. The second is data fluency. And so really being, and I have lots of conversations with my team about sort of storytelling, really being able to understand how to extrapolate insights and to communicate those insights from data. I think that's another critically important, sort of skill. It's not just about churning out reports, but it's about drawing out and being able to lift up insights. And I think, the really important piece, this came up in some of our openings earlier, is around ethics in leadership. So when we think about the introduction, the adoption of some of the AI tools and new technology options that are available, we have to make sure that we're not just sort of not putting any guardrails in place. We have to be ethical, and thoughtful to ensure, that we're fair, that we're not using these tools again to make decisions for us, because there are risks, including, those that relate to bias, and that we're sort of, that we're very sort of inclusive. Right now in our organization, for example, we're having dialogue, with staff about what curiosities do they have? What do they think are potential use cases? We're not sort of only from a top-down approach, insisting upon these are the ways. We're having some of that, sort of come from our organization, from our workforce, because we know that that's just going to, help us go even further with being curious and exploring, what all the options are.
Thank you. Hanan, want to add anything to what Nicole said?
No, it's mainly that part about being very data driven and understanding that yes, of course, we all hear that it's going to allow you to become much more strategic. It's gonna be very important to keep the ethics in mind, and remember that with ethics especially, and with generative AI coming into the platform, it's depending on learning from you, and it's depending on improving based on the data that it's seeing that you are extracting. So that means the control is still is within us, and it's what we are teaching, what we are making AI deliver. However, in terms of the systems and the workflows, I think there's going to be a lot of changes in how we are working, and what kind you can get every kind of slice of reports and data from that system. It's going to be what are you looking for, and just play with it. Like when we all started play with Excel and Word and PowerPoint and all of this, a lot of it was just playing with the system. So play with the system. Don't be afraid. It's very important to understand how to prompt for certain questions. So that's something that maybe you want to play several times and see what are the results that are coming. There are several platforms, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or Jerko or Claude. Each one of them has its strength. One is more good for if you're doing content. The other is very good if you're doing research. So you also have to understand their tools and which tool to use, and understand that it's kind of learning from you. So I don't want to say like a child, but it's going to depend a lot on what you give it and what you're speaking to them from.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you guys touched upon the data interpretation that is very important. What do you extract out of the information that you have, and also curiosity in terms of what to try out, and be aware of what are the various tools that are available and which is good for what kind of work. Great answers. We'll move next, which is a poll question. I would request the audience to please give your answers to it. Discussing on the AI in your organizations, which of the sub-functions of HR that will be a top priority for you inside your organization, which you're considering as a best place to start with in the HR space, whether it's talent acquisition, employee experience, data analytics, or HR admin core, HR and payroll. So if you can select your options, that would be very helpful as we would lead into more discussion on this. As you're dwelling on the poll question, we'll move on to the next topic. And Hanan, I would request you to lead that.
Yes, so the next topic is, sorry.
Yeah, I would request you to lead this question where we are looking at having various operations in HR where AI is getting used. Based on your work, your experiences, and your consulting experiences, can you give some practical examples in organizations which have benefited immensely from this, and what is the impact that it has generated?
So I work a lot with the healthcare and hospitals mainly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be, of course, a lot of use of AI in the health tech field. However, when it comes to mainly to human resources, I think I think all around the world there is a little bit of shortage in nurses and to be able to cover that. So one of the things that we had to look into is the workforce planning and analysis into one of the hospitals. So the main issue was that there was a lot of nurses who were either leaving or they were burnout, and there was not enough to handle the patients. Also, there was not a very proper distribution of the patient to nurses ratio. So we did have to use AI in this one, and we looked into the patterns. What times do we have more patients? Is it like public holidays? Is it the flu season? Is it when it's the schools entering? So we were able to kind of come up with a calendar of when are the times that we have a peak in the emergency rooms and all of that, and when are the times that it gets quiet. In a normal situation, we would have had to go through datas of years and years and months. AI was able to do this for us very quickly. Then we went into what actually are those nurses doing, the tasks that they perform, and we sliced them into two slices: what is clinical and what is administration. Because for the clinical, we cannot replace that with AI. We actually need the skilled nurse to be there and to be working there. However, with the administration, we looked into what we can take away and use technology in. Example was the triage, where they're still coming and saying their symptoms and what they're having. So there was a system where they can actually speak directly, and that would give like an initial assessment of yes, urgent, high risk, immediately can wait. It's correct that we still had to have nurses around there, but at least they're already speaking. They don't have to bring from the beginning, enter your data. Can you show me your ID card? All that stuff that takes time, and finding if he was already a patient before in the hospital or not, that's done already automated for them so that they can go directly from there into like saving time. We looked also into the bed space, because in a lot of cases the bed space is an issue in some of the hospitals, and that was also automated. So when do we have more needs in for the bed space? What other alternative hospitals can we cooperate with? Is there anything that we can use, like ICU space or all of that? This helped us a lot, so it did reduce the turnover in the nurses. It did improve the time management, because there was now much more time for them to do what they're actually paid to do, which is save lives, not to be filling reports and doing all of that. And then the most important thing, they all kind of like it was a joint team thing. So it wasn't the human resources working in isolation from the nurses. The nurses were working with us, analyzing which tasks they feel that AI can be comfortable to handle. And it's very important in any, in my opinion, in when you're implementing AI, it's very important that you include those who are going to be using it, because there's already a lot of resistance sometimes just from the idea, oh, you're doing this to replace me, I'm teaching a machine to take my job, or that the information, the solution that you're coming up with does not really solve the problem. But when they are working with us hand in hand in the project, they understand that we're really trying to help them. We're listening to them. They can imagine one of the things they would hear. Oh wow! If they can, if the system can do that for me, I'd be very happy. So it's important to include them in that stuff, and it did improve the whole engagement survey as well, because they felt that we were coming up with solutions for them, and that we're saving their time. They, a lot of the nurses were actually more concerned that they're not able to help people. So it wasn't that they're trying to run away from workload or anything. They wanted to actually be having more time, quality time for the patients rather than the administration. So this was a very good one, and I feel if it was my choice, I'd specialize more and more in everything that has to do with the healthcare sector, because there's a big benefit for the people in it when we use AI. So yes, it helped a lot. We had another group that looked into the radiology and reading the reports, and how can the reports come much more quicker instead of having to wait for 3 days. This also could be automated. There's always going to be a human that has to review anything that AI produces, whether it's a report or anything. It's never going to be like, I'm very much anti-robot, where leave the whole thing to the robot. No, there has to be a human at the end who's making a decision. I hope this answered your question.
Not hearing you. I don't know if that's on my end, Madavi. Not hearing.
Yeah. It's good now. It's good now. I think so. Or I'm
Yeah.
hearing Nicole.
That was great, Hannon. Nicole, if you can add your experiences, because I think it's a very important question for all of us to share our experiences on.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so funny. I was nodding like vigorously as Hanan was speaking, because there's so many things that she was sharing that resonated, including involving those that will be using these tools in the discussion and in the selection of tools. And there are two things that come to mind immediately where, you know, we've seen AI be effective. And so one, Hanan mentioned engagement surveys. Part of it for us is the analysis of the data, like over time. So recently, yesterday at a staff meeting, for example, I was able to, you know, sort of put together a very brief, you know, and I think reasonably succinct presentation on what our most recent findings were from our most recent staff engagement survey, but then also how that compared with previous years, because I simply uploaded, you know, the data from each of those years and put in the prompts that, you know, were appropriate. And in seconds, right, I have, you know, sort of like an analysis and synthesis of, you know, sort of where we were, you know, a couple of years ago relative to where we are. And it made it just so easy. And so instead of spending so much time doing that analysis, we were able to now have thoughtful conversations as an executive leadership team, conversations with our, you know, full staff team, you know, about the actions that we intend to take as a result of the feedback that we were getting. And so that is one. Another is around, you know, when I think about our employee relations work, And so when employees, put forward either a complaint or a concern or what have you, I've been with my organization almost 20 years, and I used to like joke about how, the history, and our precedents for how we follow up on cases should not only reside in Nicole's head. Like that's not a sustainable practice. And so we actually implemented a tool that allows us to keep the history and the outcome of each, sort of case, but it also enables us to upload our employee handbook and all of our policies so that when a complaint comes forward, recommendations are, sort of popping up almost instantaneously about how to proceed based off of our HR policies. And so that, for us has been something that's been incredibly, effective and helpful. And I think I mentioned other examples like, why spend a half hour, an hour, or more writing a full job description when you can put in a few bullets around the scope with some prompts, around the format or what have you, and have that be generated in 30 seconds. So there are certain examples of where we are a little bit more hesitant. We don't want to yet get into the space where we're using AI tools that are driving decisions about hiring, about compensation, about all these various things. We want to be very thoughtful and careful about the balance between using these supportive tools and making sure there's human judgment. But those are some of the examples, the ones that I just shared, where we've seen like a pretty quick return, on the investment of time in learning and using some of the tools.
In fact, when Hannon mentioned about AI and human oversight or human verify, trust but verify kind of situation, that brings me one example of one of our customers, which is an airline, where they were looking at the contact center and trying to virtualize the replies to the queries as a virtual assistant. They did a very interesting thing where they looked at, they created a library of a lot of terms like well-being, sickness, depression, kind of. And so when that kind of something, when those words come up in the query, that would get triaged to a contact center executive and not to a virtual assistant, where they might take a query on leave or benefit or something like that. Okay, so that I thought was very interesting, and that's ever increasing now, that library, so that you
Sure.
are making efficiency of AI becoming well, but you are also continuing the human touch that Nicole spoke in
That's
the
right.
initial part. And the other one also is in terms of one of the things I have seen where it is very, very useful is in the learning and performance space, where with the power of contextualization that AI brings to each and every employee and the individual, it becomes very, very, I would say, relatively easy to have very personalized learning journeys instead of
Yeah,
having the old cookie cutter same training, same learning across the board courses. That also we have seen being very, very effective in that space as well. So let us move on. I think we've spent a lot of time. I think it's a very interesting question and makes a lot of meaning. So we'll move on to the next. I think it's another poll question. Looking at to the audience, how do you describe your HR tech roadmap for the next 24 months? Whether you would be in the maintenance mode, incremental mode, looking at implementing new modules, new areas, or are you doing a transformation in terms of switching to new systems, redoing your entire HR business processes, etc. And finally, the leading edge. It could be a combination, but where are you right now in your HR trans journey is the question. If you can answer those, please. in most of our customers right now, we see there is a combination of transformation and the leading edge, where they are using transformation as a key to bring in all the new digital practices as we go on. So I'll wait for the audience responses. Yeah. Here we are. I think incremental, BAU, and then comes the other two questions. Interesting. Because my experience has been the other way. So, okay, let's move on. We talked about usage, the practical experiences, and Nicole touched upon the ethics in this. Given the wide pervasive usage, and almost all organizations are creating AI policies. Nicole, what do you think is the role of HR in influencing those policies and also in guiding the employees and the organizations in change management and governance of those policies?
Absolutely. Thank you. So I think HR plays a critical role. We are stewards of all things fairness, transparency, accountability. I think, my participation in a conversation like this and others that I have, speak to my interest in maintaining curiosity, understanding, what are some of the use cases, learning from others about, some of the ethical considerations so that I can, sort of bring that thought leadership back to my organization. And one of the things in being that champion, being that steward that comes up is when I talk about some of the generative AI tools, for example, I remind folks that these tools are a support and that they should be treated almost the way that we would treat a talented intern that is helping out, right? We wouldn't, necessarily take an intern's work product and then just sort of run with it, right? We are still the owners of our own work, but we're using, this intern, i.e. the AI tools to provide us support to help us to work more efficiently. And so we have to be very thoughtful. We're not going to do, hopefully, anything reckless as HR leaders, as leaders in general, like put, protected information in a tool that we're not sure about, right? Like upload people's social security numbers or anything private, right? So, there are, certain guardrails that we have to make sure are in place, as well as vetting tools. There are lots of cold calls and outreach that many of us in our, type of industry get. And it's not just because people are pulling at us that we're like, yeah, let's try that and that. We have to, spend time vetting things, understanding if we are using information product produced by an AI tool, understanding what is the source of the information, where is the data coming from? Again, what is the balance between utilizing the information and the products that the tools help produce, using it to be a support versus, actually, making sure that there's appropriate human judgment to make decisions. The tools hopefully will not be making decisions for us. I agree with Hanan that in some ways, I don't know, maybe I want a robot to like clean my house or something, but I shouldn't be using a robot, for everything else. I'm not even sure I'm that comfortable with the driverless cars that have been, piloted. I've seen like in parts of the United States, California, Arizona. There was a story where somebody got trapped in one of the cars. It just kept on circling an airport. So, I don't know that we're ready for a completely robot, operated world. And then also, being mindful and as HR leaders about, the extent to which bias, even unintentionally, might, come into the mix. And so for us to be, constant and at the table, involved in conversations, hopefully with our partners in information technology and in data and analytics, of course, but I think there's a unique role that we maintain as HR leaders that we ought to maintain, which is to be, a steward of, transparency, accountability, and fairness. So.
Yeah, I mean, and also there are a lot of regulations that most countries, states have bringing in. So should be aware of those regulations. But one area I found, which were certain cases that we came across, is that see whether an organization adopts AI or not, the individuals, employees are using it anyway. Okay, whether to make a presentation, fine tune a presentation, create a brief, create a JD. So they are using, and they're also using publicly available and publicly open kind of AI, which means that there is always a possibility that some of the company's confidential information might go through, and that is becoming a big challenge, and it's very inadvertent. I don't think it is intentional, but inadvertently they might be putting out very confidential, and that might even mean that they are violating some of the confidentiality rules of the organization as well. So I think as HR we need to educate, create awareness, and also evangelize what to use a publicly available, publicly open AI and whatnot. That also becomes a very critical part as more and more people adopt AI in the organizations. I think we saw this. We spoke. You both of you gave your view in terms of the practical examples, but we have a lot of people, a lot of organizations, too, and even in our this thing, more of the audiences seem to be on the maintenance and no incremental views of modules. If an organization or if a HR leader want to start, where do you think is the best place to start, which is least resistant, most impact, and most, I would say, bang for the buck from this, so that they get the whole organization enthused? Where do you think it will start? Might be Nicole, if you can start, and then Hanan can.
Sure thing. So, I think, there was reference to learning journeys. I think about AI adoption and sort of like that, the transformational work that, is sort of related to AI adoption. It's a journey. I would say at our organization presently, we're at the relative infancy stage of that journey. And it's, my adage is, we crawl, we walk, then we run. And it is not reasonable or realistic for us to think that everybody is going to be at level playing ground with comfort, the removal of fear about whether AI is going to replace jobs, all these very things. Everybody's not going to be at the same place at the same time. And so one of the things that we are doing right now that, I've been very intentional about is starting with a small group, right? And so, first of all, we had a group, a task force that had different members of the organization from different corners represented that were involved in actually developing the AI policy together. And so now in this next phase, what we're doing in my teams in human resources, the learning team, and so on, is we're starting to have brainstorming sessions facilitated about, quick wins use cases. Is it, organizing all of our JDs? Is it, helping us with some of our people analytics, as I was mentioning before? So what those things are, so that first of all, this smaller, sort of subset of the workforce hopefully gains comfort and then becomes of the team, a part of the team of credible messengers to be able to, share out their experiences with the rest of the organization. And for us, that it just seems like the smartest move, because there's yes, we do have a lot of confidential information, but it's a little bit of a different equation for some of our program leaders, for example, to wrap their heads around, what does this mean for client and family information? I'm nervous about that. So if we can sort of be, a team that helps to model for the rest of the organization by increasing efficiencies in some of our administrative work, or work that, maybe is not, perceived as risky, to be exposed, I think we'll, be able to have a sustainable adoption plan, going forward. So that's part of like the strategy, starting with a smaller group and then use, help hopefully leveraging that group to be a part of the, team of credible messengers.
Hanan, you want to continue?
Very, very spot on with Nicole's answer. Where you're gonna start is honestly gonna depend on where you are. Which part of HR are you working in? Are you a generalist or are you a specialist? I don't know. Comes to my mind if you're in compensation and benefits. There's a lot of things that we used to spend time on matching job. Doing the job evaluation and matching it with others in the market, that's going to be most probably very much automated. So you want to know a little bit about data analysis and how does AI do data analysis, because that's going to help you in your job. In general, if you're in any role, the first thing I would do is do the process examination, look into each of your processes, see what from it is like a pain in the head, what is something that you do repeatedly and it really is something that you don't forward to every month. We all have those reports, whereas every month it's a lot of work. Can I be automating that? So that would be the first thing. Then what can we automate from it? What are the platforms and what are the things, what are the systems that we can use? And then the very important thing is educate your team to use AI like they use anything else. Like, don't make it a big subject. Like, it's exactly like showing you something that you didn't know how to do. For example, how to do VLOOKUP on Excel. Like, that's something that a lot of people usually don't even know how to do. But when you do that, or when you introduce that, it saves a lot of time. But it's not a big, like, the fear is blocking us from even trying to see what the benefit can be. And then again and again, always look into ensuring that there's a human touch, and whatever time you're going to be saving from those reports or things that you have been all the time complaining or giving it to someone else, if you can get away from it, this is the time that you need to spend now as quality time with the people. This time has to be going somewhere. And if you're so afraid of losing your job, then let's use that fear in a positive way. Okay, how are we going to put time to ensure that if that happens, I have skills not only to keep my job, but to even find another job? That's going to be the mindset. The fear is not going to solve a problem. It's what's the action? And I always use that same thing with my kids. Like, if they're complaining so much about the subject or an exam and they keep complaining and complaining, just get with it. What are you going to do about it? The fear, it's a bad subject. It's not your cup of tea. Fine. What are we going to do about it? Get into it and handle it so you pass this. That's my opinion on that.
Yeah, curiosity and trying to learn something new always. Yeah. One area where I have seen the most impact is in the employee engagement and employee queries. Where all of us know, trying to get some information on our benefits, insurance, anything, wading through pages and pages of policy, trying to get the right information. We see that, that has a serious and huge impact on the employee engagement when you try to distill the information that is relevant to the employee, provide that, and any queries, employee queries, and you have somebody who can respond to it, available 24/7, try to make it easier for them. That's another area where we have huge impact, where AI can have make life easier, not only for the employee but also for the HR folks as well. So let's move on. Yeah, the next question for the audience, next poll question, just what's the current HRMS software that you use internally? We just gave the leading softwares, whether it's SAP, the ECC or SuccessFactors, Oracle EBS or Oracle Cloud or Workday or any other. What do you use for your workforce admin, recruitment, under talent and other functions? Okay. Oh, wow. Seems to be Oracle all the way. Okay. Now we touched upon various topics about AI in HR, ethics, etc. But how is AI reshaping the relationship between HR and the rest of the organization? And how is HR trying to help the organization or play a role in shaping up the organization and the employee readiness to adapt to these changes? If Hanan, if you can start, and then Nicole can add her views.
Yeah, as we can see, I think anybody who is following the news, and there's a lot of investment that's going into AI by the largest and the biggest organizations, which means that regardless of anybody's opinions, there's going to be a lot of money put into the business in that direction. So, based on that, we as human resources not only need to understand how to use it, but we also need to understand what is the expectations from human resources in an AI world. What are the departments going to be looking for? What exactly are they going to be needing from us? So, it's going to be very much data driven, and there's going to be a lot of analytics that is requested, and it's requested quick. It's gonna not gonna be the end of month report. It's gonna be a la minute. Anytime the general manager or the chief operating executive wants a report, he wants it now. So the very importance is that we get all our data ready and clean up our data that is going to be swaying the algorithms or all of this. We have to remember that AI at the end is a system. It's based on algorithms, and it's based on what we feed it. So what we're going to be entering as data in the first place is going to be very important on the end results reports that we're going to be needing. But it's going to be important, or it's already important. We always say be a business partner. Now it's going to be very much in the in your core competencies that you have to be a very much a business partner. So you have to understand what data is the IT department going to be looking for, what data is the finance going to need, what is some things that the CEO is going to be requesting at any time. And based on that, you have to prepare to migrate your data from whatever systems to whatever AI systems that we're going to be using. And usually, what I'm seeing in most platforms, whether it's SAP or Workday or whatever, they're all now, it's the same system, but they're just enhancing the systems to include AI in, which is good because we don't have to use another system and go to vendors and all of that stuff. But it's gonna be an ongoing learning journey for us and also the other department heads, because not all the department heads yet understand exactly what they're going to be able. Yeah, Nicole is nodding. A lot of them are actually much more behind. They don't understand how AI is going to be affecting their jobs. I think us as human resources also, we're going to be hiring with a very different set of skills. We're going to be looking for people who are curious, people who want to learn, who are very tech savvy, regardless of the job or the role that they're playing. So it's going to be people who have that personality to have problem solving techniques and go and find a solution, and who are generally not even waiting for the organization to educate them about AI or to give them the training. No, they themselves are always onto it and looking into it and all of this. So I think it's going to affect our recruitment a lot, not just in how we are recruiting, but in what we're recruiting and what we're looking for. It's going to affect as well our reporting and analysis and all the way. It's going to definitely have a toll as well on compliance, because of all the ethics that's going to be coming into it and questioning it, which I think is going to be just a phase. The ethics and all of this is going to be maybe for the coming 2-3 years, but then it's going to be sorted because all organizations have their own systems in place, which will carry on into whether it's an AI or whatever. So that as well is going to be there. Um, and look into how to automate whatever you can automate so you're able to be fast. We don't know what's going to come. We're not sure of what is the expectations, and AI itself is changing massively. So what we learn today is changing
Yep.
next 6 months and all of that. So which is good because we and everybody are learning in the same time. There's nobody ahead. So it's all going to be about how much effort you put into it. But if I was an HR in a place, I'd like to be, I'm the one who's teaching actually the department heads how to use it, not the opposite. So I'd like to partner very much with the IT. I would like to very, very much bring in my CEO and telling him, listen, this is how you do it. Um, let's brand ourselves as a tech savvy HR leaders and be the ones leading this, not the ones behind, oh, HR doesn't know how to use it, or HR is still using this system,
Yeah.
or HR. We should be the drivers of it. And there's going to be a lot of conversations with all the department heads um, in every department, depending on the sector you're working at.
True. Very true, Hannah. Nicole, want to add on to what Hannah said?
And cover that so well. Nothing much to add. The only thing that comes to mind is, a boss said to me at one point, don't get ready, stay ready, right? So always being curious and staying ahead of the curve and, paying attention to what's, around the corner is what's going to help us to not just solve problems, but to actually, be a business partner to come to the table with solutions. But Hannah covered it so well. Nothing more to add.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. Okay. I think you covered a bit, Hannon, on this. Looking ahead, what are the AI tools and capabilities that people could look at? Are there any tools that you recommend people to look at which can help in the HR function?
Yeah, I think start simple. So the majority of the companies, I believe, are using Copilot because it's Microsoft and because uh, they are saying that Copilot does not save the data and the searches. I'm not sure about that, but that's why we're using it. So you can actually do simple things like if you go into like Microsoft Power or Microsoft Power Automate, those are very, very small free courses. You don't actually pay except if you want to get the badges or the credentials and all of this. And it teaches you how to use simple things like Power BI, all that little things that can help you with the data and how to get it and how to use it. There's also like very tiny courses that's on UPath or on Corsa for those who are in the learning and development field. So you can build a lot of content from there. I'm not saying it's 100% like that you use whatever the system gives you, but it teaches you that sometimes you can just write a draft of what you want,
Yeah.
and you won't be surprised of what are the things that you're gonna be finding. There's if you look into the recruitment field, there's now we're seeing ads for uh, different titles that we were not even aware of, like workforce architect, analytical. I don't know what. There's those titles are actually exactly what we were doing. It's just more tech savvy and using a lot of data. So when you see a position like this, don't ignore it. Go and see what are the skills that are required, and then go and look into, okay, how can I learn this? Because most probably this is going to be the position that you're doing, but it's because they're looking for some other sets of skills, it is named in a different way. But the core of the understanding of the methods and the methodologies of how to do that job, you have it. It's just because how to use those skills and get it. But I did not I did take a formal two diplomas in organization transformation, but a lot of my learning came just from curiosity. Once the AI came in,
True.
um, I was like, this is gonna change the whole world. This is gonna change everything. So I started playing around with uh, like simple things on like Excel and all of this. Then during interviews with interns from the unis, they were talking about using this tool. The first time I heard about Power BI was from an intern actually, and I was like, I'm not okay if this guy knows how to do it and I don't know how to do it. Like, I'm not done yet. I'm gonna learn this, and then you go and play with it. But if you're the kind of person who needs to sit into a structured learning course or something like that, there's a lot of that stuff under Microsoft itself for free. If you're into SAP now has or SAP. There's now like this whole core. What do you call it? There's a new platform with
Joule.
AI
Joule.
core.
Joule.
Joule, yeah, sorry. So that's also available on their systems themselves. If you're into compliance, there's now a lot of cases like for those who were doing investigations, and we had to look into like the company policy and then look into another what is the government's rules in the states, and so many jurisdictions. There's now systems that can allow you to map this case,
Yep.
let's say it's harassment or discrimination, to the jurisdictions of the state of Victoria, but also to the attached business conduct. And it would go through the attachment from your company's policy along with that, and gives you at least the the number of the article or something. Now, it's not going to tell you exactly what you want to find, but at least instead of finding which article or which law or whichever, you have already saved half a day. You found the
Yep.
article which then you can read. So it depends on where you are, uh, but I would start simple, baby steps. Yeah, Microsoft
Yeah.
would be the
Yeah, like you said, most people have standard HR applications, whether it's SAP or Workday has what is called Illuminate, and then you have Oracle AI. So they can. That's a good place to start because they're part of the product. That's something you're using for your day-to-day operations, and that could be a very good place also to start. Working on this. I think we have only a couple of minutes left. There are a lot of questions I can see. To the audience, we'll definitely respond to those questions, but I don't think we'll be able to take up Might be one question we can take up. We have a couple of 2 minutes, I think. I think this is a good one. When first implementing AI to HR, do you first start with data governance or develop e-policy before starting the use of AI? Any of you want to take it?
Yeah,
Shall I read it?
they go hand in
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah,
Can you read
exactly.
it? Can
Yeah,
you?
that.
Yeah. One more time. I'd definitely look into the policy of what we're gonna be implementing, because the policy kind of is the Bible, or it's like the main direction that we're allowed to navigate through. So there's no point in going into work with the data analysis before we understand what we're using it for, which direction or anything. So yeah, the policies usually for me is like the compass. It tells you what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do, and the direction. So I don't know if Nicole has another opinion, but yeah, that's where it starts from.
Interest of time that
I think it will evolve.
it looks like we have
Yeah.
to.
Thanks, Nicole and Hannon, for your interesting insights and your perspectives. I think we just crossed the time, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Just some quick final notes. Just want to say a very special thank you to our amazing panelists for your great insights and being so generous with your time. It was a very interesting discussion. On behalf of myself and Marcus Evans, we'd just like to thank you so much for the collaboration throughout. To turn things to the audience, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you got a lot of insight from this. There was a lot of great questions and comments that came in. Unfortunately, we were not able to get to them. We'll definitely send you an email afterwards. Please also look out for an email in the next 2 hours with links to review today's material. And finally, we'd love to hear your feedback about what you thought about the webinar today. A survey will pop up on the screen in just a moment, but really appreciate any comments that you might have. On behalf of Hexaware Technologies and Marcus Evans, we'd like to thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you have a great day further. Thank you, everyone, and take care of yourselves.
Thank you.